Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Del Mendo on a beautiful but cold Wednesday in Chicago. We got a lot to talk about in this podcast. We're going to do some grading. Report cards are coming out again today. Ian Happ, one of the guys, will be handing out a report card too. We have Cubs news off the top. We have opening night for the Bulls. What else you want to talk about? How about Ayo Dosunmu being part of CHGO?
Yeah.
How cool was that this morning?
That was
the big announcement.
That was fun. It was hard to keep our mouths shut the last week since he was here.
Anyone who knows me knows that I was probably the most excited about this entire thing happening. I've been following Ayo Dosunmu's basketball career since he was a freshman at Illinois. And I remember when he somehow fell to the Bulls, 30 or 37 picks before the Bulls even picked in that 2020 draft. And, to see him play there last year, and now I can technically say that I work with the guy. I mean, it's pretty cool. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Chicago kid, too. I remember hosting a high school basketball highlight show every week, and they had the producers were like, "It's Ayo, it's not Ayo, it's Ayo." Yeah. Like, okay, I got it. And then he was on you'd be like, well, this kid's in the highlight every week. It's like 2 dunks every game, and to think that kid has now gone from that to being maybe a breakout season if he didn't already have that in the NBA is pretty cool.
And even bigger. Part of CHGO now.
Right.
That might be the biggest,
that's what I'm saying.
The biggest accomplishment in his career.
I'm pretty jealous of the Bulls guys. They get to actually chop it up with him and, talk basketball with him. I just get to walk around and say that I work with the guy, but I don't really technically work with the guy. You might.
If he's in here, Cody might walk by and just be kind of casually show him his Jordan lows. Every once in a while, they just walk through the set, kind of showing off the next pair of Jordan. He'll go change Jordans and then come back and be like, I'll be like, who's the dude with all the Jordan lows?
Yeah.
Well, that's the
it was pretty sick when we took the picture the other day. He was wearing the classic Jordan ones.
Yeah.
And then I was wearing lows. And then Casey, who took the picture, she got the angle perfect with both us wearing Jordans on there. I thought that's actually my favorite part of the entire picture.
I likened it to just the way the setup was. Ayo had just got drafted, and Cody looked like Adam Silver, shaking his hand as they posed for the pictures.
Yeah,
Adam Silver
Sarah,
with
if you
Jordans
could find that
on.
picture, that'd be hilarious.
Ayo is my president.
I think Cody tweeted it, right?
Adam Silver came over and said, "Vibes, nice to meet you." Sarah, do you happen to have the video that we put out on CHGO announcing that he was part of the squad?
Love it.
Here we go.
Oh, the heartbeat of Chicago.
Boom, boom, boom.
Ball bounces.
Pretty sick.
It's on our rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's up there.
We got the best view in the city. Arguably.
Retweet.
We do have that was a cool job, everybody did putting that together. We do have a cool rooftop, although now watching that, having been up on that rooftop to try and see the air and water show and take pictures of Cody trying to look like Pedro Strop one time in the summer, I'm glad I didn't see Ayo up there because I'd have been afraid that he was going to fall through the ceiling.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad we can tell him that now that it's over and he's safe.
Ryan, remember when we were sitting down here when they were up there? You could hear him dribbling the ball. And I was like, man, someone's going to fall through.
I was like, what happens if the ball falls off? There's just some poor soul just walking down the street. All of a sudden they get hit with a basketball.
All of a sudden there's this really long leg hanging between some of the timber up top. Yeah. We have one of those old wooden, I don't know. I just don't know how old this building is, but the rafters would make you think that it's pretty old, right?
Yeah,
it's been renovated, but the beams would tell you it's pretty old. So
I would think so.
I like Matthew's comment. He says, I didn't see naked guy in that video. The view is fake.
He's on the other side.
He's on the other side, man. Yeah.
He was just out of shot.
Anyway, super excited. The Bulls are starting off, and super cool to have Ayo part of CHGO. And Excited for Peck and Gottlieb and Big Dave and stuff as they get excited to get going tonight. Cubs fans should be excited. One Corey Friedman should be excited because today the Cubs announced they are lowering season tickets. And John Greenberg at The Athletic saying it's the biggest one-year decrease in 30 years that he could find. Average bleacher seats, according to Greenberg, last year $47, now $44. Terrace box, $74.68 down to $69.67. And guys, those are just if you're buying season tickets. Again, you start using that Game Time app that we got here. You're not paying those prices.
No, right.
So let the season ticket holders pay those prices and then slide in like Cody and get like 2 tickets for $40.
Yeah.
Game time.
You make a good point there, Luke.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But at least Corey's tickets will finally go down for once.
I mean, I'm not really too surprised that they're going down. We talked about it earlier at the end of the year, right, where they announced that the lowest since 97 amount of money or the attendance or whatever.
Smallest attendance.
Which you know that's like bought tickets too, like that number's going out.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they showed up.
Yeah. But so the average,
it's a lot of season tickets that probably weren't even from the actual season.
Yeah, the total attendance this year. I have the Sox one, but I still have the Sox one pulled up. All right, from this year, Cubs had 2.616 million, fans, and that was the announced attendance overall.
Still ninth in baseball.
Still ninth in baseball somehow,
which is wild.
But yeah, which is why it's like your top 10 attendance, and still kind of complaining about like, oh, it's a low attendance. But yeah, I mean, last year you don't really count because for most of the year it was like 25% and 55% or 50% capacity. Obviously 2020 didn't have any fans, but before that, yeah, you go back to 1997, they had 2,190,000. That's
it's because of that.
And that's like when you take into account like the 2012, 2013, 2014, like the rebuild years, 2006 where they lost 96 games. Like it's to think that the Cubs this year drew less fans than some of those teams. Like it's
things were different back then, and I know we use the cliche, it's different here, but like all those years you just said, like that was before they won the World Series. There's actual expectations from this fan base to win. And, as much as one of the reasons why I grew up liking being a Cubs fan outside of the fact that it gave me a lot of pain was that people showed up no matter what. And as a kid, you always like took that as like a, something to be proud of. You didn't think about the business side of it and like how the team would use that as a reason to maybe not invest in the team as much. But, now that they've won the World Series in 2016, and it's been 6 years, and they had some winning years after that, but didn't get all the way back. And, with how things ended how things have gone, honestly, since the moment the Yu Darvish trade happened, a lot of people are still mad, man. So they're not going.
I don't want to be Uncle Buzzkill here, but I'm just going to throw out a scenario to you. Are they lowering it for that reason? We think that's the case. Like they're trying to draw in some more season ticket holders before the team gets good again, and then people are like, "Oh, I got my season tickets before." Now they start thinking about the next great Cubs team, and they got in early. But Greenberg was saying in his article on The Athletic that the next biggest drop that he'd seen in going back and look at season tickets was 2013. And I was like, well, 2013? Aren't we supposed to think this is like 2014 or 15 now?
Yeah.
So we're expecting this big spend coming this offseason. Does this signal that the Cubs are thinking they're more like they were last season was like 13, or are they thinking the money will be spent and you could be pushing towards a team that could be like 2014 or 15? Like am I saying what I'm saying is, do they think the rebuild is a year back from what maybe Cubs fans are hopeful it is at this stage?
I sure hope not.
I don't know.
I sure hope not.
Maybe that's a stretch, but I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, my gut tells me that it does have a little more to do with the lowest obviously attendance numbers in 25 years, where like Cody said, it's things changed after the World Series. Like fans aren't just gonna come to just go to Wrigley Field for the afternoon or for the night. Like Cubs fans want to see a winning team, and they want to, if they're gonna pay the prices that they pay to go to Wrigley Field for the game day experience. Like they want to see a winning team.
Yeah.
Like so,
Right.
I think things have changed, and
you also have to take in the fact that signing, even back the last offseason, signing Marcus Stroman and Seiya Suzuki, signing them then, and if you really didn't think you were going to be trying to put something together for 2023, then why did you do that to begin with? Right?
Right. Or was it just to try and sell any tickets?
Right, unless you're just trying to sell tickets and
I just don't think those guys drive the ticket price enough that
Right.
people be like, you know what, I am getting.
If they were really
tickets.
about trying to
True.
driving the tickets up or trying to get people to buy tickets, then yeah, they would have signed Correa. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, you want to sell it out? Go sign Correa and Judge.
so like to
He'll
me,
sell it out.
Yeah.
to me, the way I look at it, it's like, why, and that's why I was a little bit more hopeful than the rest of us going into the years. Like, why would you sign Stroman and Seiya Suzuki if you weren't trying to at least be a competitive team out there? So, yeah, I mean, again, I hope they see this as like next season could be some sort of 2015 like season. Maybe not win 97 games, but 85. I'll take that.
Hey, I mean, you see what, and I know we're going to talk about the playoffs here in a sec, but you see what the Phillies have done. I mean, snuck into the playoffs, and they're
Expanded
ahead,
playoffs too.
and
Like,
they're
Swept by
ahead,
the Cubs.
Yeah, swept by the Cubs.
Sneak into the playoffs.
and they're up in the NLCS right now.
Right.
Like that.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's just like
Get
when
in and you never know.
Yeah,
Right.
you get in, you give yourself a shot. So I don't see it as like, again, like I don't expect the Cubs to spend every dollar they can up to a luxury tax this offseason. But like if there's a very realistic scenario where they can put an on-paper team together that can win, on paper, like 85, 86, 87 wins. And
I hope they don't spend up to the luxury tax.
No, they shouldn't.
I hope they don't do that.
I want them to spend. They need to get some star power in here, right? But yeah, like we saw with how they did from 15 to 16 after the 15 season. That's when they spent really big, right?
Yeah.
Going into the World Series year. And so like I'd rather them spend some here, make some maybe some trades that maybe us as a fan base don't see as significant but solid, and then, go into next year and hope and pray that it works out. But yeah, they got to spend, but yeah, no luxury tax. Not up to luxury tax yet.
Oh, man, the next couple months are going to be interesting
Yeah.
for Cubs fans and for the Cubs in
All
general.
of us are ready for the postseason to be over, to be honest with you. Like, no, I'm not speaking for you guys, but I am. I'm over it. I'm ready for it to be over so we can just get to it.
It has been fun, though. The games have been fun.
I'm enjoying the playoffs.
I am not.
How did you feel about Schwarber versus Darvish?
It was a good matchup.
It's not like watching Rizzo celebrate.
Former Cub on former Cub crime.
Yeah.
that ball.
What a home run.
That ball's still going.
I'm happy I saw it live. I'm like, because Bryce Harper's face was probably pretty
Unbelievable.
similar to me.
Yeah.
Like watching it,
was
just
like-
leave
it
the
was
The
bat.
hardest hit home run in postseason history, 120 miles an hour exit velo, since they've been calculating that. Since StatsCast, right.
2015. Yeah.
Right, but still, okay, since the Cubs got good, that was, so then that immediately my head goes to the Schwarboard one. I don't know what the exit velo on that was, but that was one of the hardest hit baseballs I've ever seen. And to think this was actually hit harder and further, whoa.
You got the same type of reaction from the video board one too. If you watch it back when he hits it, there's they pan to the stands and there's this one guy with just this insane reaction. Like it's just some random fan, but like he's having a me-like reaction, right? Like I just, that's what I remember the most because like obviously he hits it, it's insane, and Wrigley Field is just about to fall down because the stadium is shaking. But there's one particular fan in that crowd that you can recognize, and he is just he is having the best moment of his life during that, and that's kind of like what Bryce Harper's reaction was kind of similar.
Yeah. By the way, 112 on the
Schwarboard?
mile per hour exit velocity, the Schwarboard.
So 8 miles an hour more.
Well, and yesterday I'm like,
Same.
it felt like it was hit so, like it got out of there so fast. Like
It was a scud. It was a scud missile. Like it never arced down.
like no one reacted like right away. Like when he hit
Yeah.
the Schwarber, I was like, like it just felt like no one reacted just because like the ball left the bat so hard, like so fast, no one had time to react. Like it was nuts.
He's just, man, I tell you, the first thing I thought of really when I saw it was the Schwarboard, and the second thing I thought of was, how did they let him walk? Don't at me on Twitter about the nonsense with Patrick Wisdom's the same guy and he strikes out too much and his batting average this. That's the value. They have Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper's watching Schwarber and jumping on his shoulders.
Yeah.
That's the type of guy. I don't care how many times he strikes out, and I know how many times we were frustrated by his strikeouts in a Cubs uniform at the end.
Yep.
But he can also do that, and when he's at his best, he is a guy that an entire franchise and fan base will rally around because of that type of unbelievable athletic ability.
Yeah.
When it comes through for him, right? Like, I mean, he's just it's like coming back from the ACL the same season that he tore it to play in the World Series. Guys don't do that. I mean, we're talking about Zach Levine missing opening night.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Like that, it was
Schwarber is, for all his strikeouts and them choosing him to be the first guy to kind of let walk away and basically get nothing, he has an aura around him that the other, no matter, even if they were better players, that the other Cubs guys didn't have. He had that high ceiling that even Chris Bryant with his great first and second season didn't have. Like Schwarber just had this like type of thing where people write about it for years later, like this guy walked on. And it's why people were saying like Schwarbino at first.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty torn between the entire that entire situation. I mean, I think everyone wants to yell about him hitting above the barely above the Mendoza line. Well, with the shift being gone next year, if he's hitting above 250, then that will have proven my point about why his batting average is so low. Yeah, he strikes out. Everyone strikes out, but man, during his time with the Cubs, it felt like he hit so many rockets into the shift, and it was just so agonizing sometimes because felt like I was one of his biggest defenders because he would hit the ball hard.
Yeah.
We saw it last night. He hits the ball hard, but yeah, no, I
see the chat. I see Dub saying I'm not saying you needed him this season, and Jack, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have traded him the offseason. I'm saying they would have gotten something for him.
Yeah.
They would have something to show for Schwarber. And I do think on the quote-unquote next great Cubs team with a DH and no shift, I would have been able to put up with another year, even if that's what happened this year with Schwarber.
Right.
Yeah, but at the time, I can't see that as like a knock against the decision. Like I agree. Like they should have
got something.
Non-tendering him.
Yes.
was a mistake. But I don't see like there's no way to have known that the shift. I guess the DH was probably a little more likely, but the shift going away, like you never really. There's no way to know at that point that was going to come. 2-3 years later. So I can't use that as a knock.
Everyone talks about Darvish like that trade being like a salary dump. Schwarber, the longer it goes on, the more it feels like that was more of a salary dump than just them not believing in him.
And also just that they knew they had to show the fan base that they were changing something and breaking up with part of the core, and it was like, all right, let's make it Schwarber. I just think with the injury and the way they got
do that, you got to trade and get some guys who are gonna be able to impact your team immediately. Well, the Darvish trade, Owen Casey looks like the only one right now that might be something. I have some hope for Preciado maybe, but like Casey is like 19 or 20 years old and spent the entire year in South Bend, right? Like that's the difference. If you were going to do like I was always on board for the Cubs to make changes, especially after the 18 season.
After the offense broke?
Yeah,
I was definitely on board for them to make a trade, especially because the farm system wasn't what it is now, especially. But they didn't. They signed Daniel Descalso, and then we get the same thing in 2019, and then you do nothing again, and then you luck out, and it's not even luck out. It's more of Ben Zobrist has this bullshit with his wife, and you sign Kimbrel during the 19 season.
and which is fine, but like that's only because Ben Zobrist left. It was just so like the way that the Cubs really just hurt themselves during that time period is what honestly what makes me more mad about everything that has to do with Schwarber and Darvish. That then leads me going down the path of the other three guys.
Dubs said he was being sarcastic, so he's on board with the whole thing. And
He's literally one of the main things they really could have used this year. They really needed a power lefty bat.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have any lefty bats, and then they didn't have a lot of power. If you would have just had that, then maybe the team wins at least 10 more games.
And I understand I'm being slightly unrealistic.
I know 10's a lot. I'm just spitballing.
10's very unrealistic.
Yeah. But I'm slightly unrealistic because I know like
maybe some of those one-run losses.
I got a little Cody in me when it comes to Schwarber. Mm-hmm. Like he's my favorite guy from that group, right? Yeah. It's not Rizzo, it's not Bryant, it's not Javi. I liked all those guys, but Schwarber for me was the guy. I was just hoping he was going to become the greatest hitter in Cubs history.
Yeah, he was easy to like.
And now you see him fitting even more than Rizzo in New York. Like Rizzo's fitting in with New York, and they like him, and I see him do well, and I feel good for him. Great. But you see Schwarber in Philly even more than Boston, and he's fitting in with that fan base. Like their Wawa is like their 7-Eleven or whatever there, and they got Schwarbfest going on for hoagie deals, and he's.
When he has a likable guy like Cody said.
Super likable.
The last couple of years, All-Star, 2 straight years, like he's bounced back because that 2020 season was bad. Yeah. Like he was a non-tender candidate for a reason. Like that was a bad year, but he's bounced back with 2 All-Star years, and I don't know. Maybe the Cubs end up regretting. Like again, it's a mistake. I'm saying that they should have tendered him a contract, but he may be the guy that they regret letting get away most out of that entire core.
Yeah, I think it's leaning more and more that way, right?
Yeah.
By the way,
it should be. And I don't care if he hit like 210 or whatever. The dude hit almost 50 homers, and his OPS was great. Like that's literally all you ask for a guy like that. And again, with the shift being gone next year, that guy's going to get so many more hits. And people will stop complaining about how he hits 210. That's honestly what I look forward to the most is when people stop saying, oh, he hits like 200. And it's like, you're a moron. Like, we are in the freaking age of the goddamn shift. The shift is literally the reason the guy hits like 210. It's the same thing with Anthony Rizzo, too. Both their batting averages, I guarantee will go up at least 20 points next year. At least.
Led the National League in home runs. In a season when people aren't hitting home runs, he hit a crap load of them. Yeah. Like there's something there. Yankees, Astros. So you're finally getting the return of the trash can series. I do like the drama behind this. I just can't decide. Am I still rooting for the Astros just because I'd like to see Dusty win, but I hate the Astros, or the Yankees, who I've never really liked, because I'd like to see the Astros lose and Rizzo. I don't like either side, but it is going to be very tense. Like, will they continue the Who's Your Daddy? Because the Who's Your Daddy thing has become my favorite part of the whole season so far. Was a goofball saying Who's Your Daddy, rounding the bases, and then having to eat it the next day or 2 days later.
Yeah, I'm still rooting for Dusty. I cheating regardless. Dusty wasn't around for that. Most of the people on that team weren't. But people are still going to hate the Astros because of it. But Dusty, and I think he won a ring as a player.
Yeah,
but he's been managing for 30 years. Has not won a ring. He's gotten close multiple times. Hasn't done it. He's probably getting close to the end of his own managerial career. I'd like to see him win one before it's all said and done.
Yeah, I'm going to cheer for the Astros. I can't take Anthony Rizzo winning any more playoff games not in a Cubs uniform. I can't do it. It's already bad enough seeing him hit homers with the Yankees in the postseason. Now I have to see pictures of him pouring champagne on people and him getting poured champagne on. I can't take it. It's worse than having to watch the Cardinals celebrate anything. It's honestly worse than that, and that's saying something coming from me. I can't take it. Of all of them that are gone, I could take all the rest of them having success and doing well in the postseason. I cannot take it. And it's not because I don't like him. It has everything to do with the fact that he's just a big part of my Cubs fandom. And it makes me sad and miserable.
I'm surprised that would make you more sad than to have seen like Yachty and Pujols go out with the World Series this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
To see
my.
Rizzo win a World Series with another team, for people to see, like,
And more than Schwarber if he wins it with the Phillies.
For people, like, the way I think about it is if he wins the World Series with the Yankees or whoever it is down the road, and it's not with the Cubs, people might one day look at him and be like, oh, Anthony Rizzo, World Series champion with Yankees and not the Cubs. And, like, I don't want that. I
disagree. They broke the curse. Like,
I don't care. It's all about recent. It's all about what he did
and
at the end of the year.
It depends on how long he'd be with the Yankees.
No, I don't see that. He was with the Cubs for 9 years. Like,
10 years.
I think it's
I don't see that happening.
I think people will forget Schwarber with the Cubs.
Yeah.
If he takes the Phillies to the World Series and he starts and hits more home runs like that, people may forget the Cubs part.
I don't see the people
Cubs
forgetting.
fans won't, but
I just don't. I guess
it's not that I don't think people will forget it. I just think people will
think of him as that
associate.
Yeah, right.
That's more of what I'm saying. They will associate Rizzo with whoever it is that he's winning playoff series or World Series with, whatever.
I still don't think that because he was the face of the Cubs and Rizzo is like the fourth face of the Yankees right now. Like, I don't see that. I don't see him ever. If you like, I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer, but if that happens at the end of his career, I see him going in as a Cub.
If the Yankees lose, does it make them more or less likely or no impact at all on giving Judge the huge contract? Does losing push them towards being like, well, that wasn't worth the money. He hit all the home runs and we didn't win?
I would say if they would have lost to the Guardians, maybe, but I think
no impact at all.
Right now, no.
I agree.
We'll see.
We'll see what they
agree.
do against the Astros. I do like the rumors that are coming out regarding Aaron Judge, though, about like who will be in competition with the Yankees for him. I do like to hear about those, but no, I mean, I don't think it matters in general. But I don't know. The Yankees, I understand they're the Yankees. They pay for whatever, but outside of Garrett Cole in recent years, man, like they haven't really been doing that. They aren't the Yankees of like when I was a kid, when they paid A-Rod and they paid all these other dudes like to come there. Like, I obviously could see him back there, but I don't know. Like, well, I feel like they could move on and do something else. I don't know, sign someone else. But again, remember they wanted Freddie Freeman, and then they didn't do whatever it took to get him, and like that's like what they're known for.
I mean,
Yankee fans were upset that they got Rizzo as a consolation prize.
Yes, they were.
They swung the deal for Stanton a few years back and then gave him a fat contract. Judge, like,
he already had the fat contract.
Yeah, it was that what it was. But they brought in a guy that that's what
fair.
they do with A-Rod.
That was also like
Garrett Cole. We already talked about. We already talked about the fat contract he got. I mean, Judge came through the system, so it's not like they had to go out and get this superstar 62 home run guy. I don't know. You just look. To me, the Yankees, the money is never a problem for the Yankees.
For sure. I'm not saying the money is a problem. I'm saying the way that their front office is operating. I think they want to go more so through their own system to bring up their own guys, and if they want to pay them, they will. I just don't think that they're going to do whatever it takes anymore to go get, didn't do whatever it took to get Juan Soto. And, we'll see. Will they try and get a guy like Ohtani this offseason if they don't win the World Series? Like, those are things that when we were kids, Ryan, they were the ones that were always doing stuff like that. And, in recent years, they aren't doing that in terms of free agent signings, at least.
Yeah, I mean,
I still don't think Judge leaves New York.
I don't
think he leaves the Bronx.
And I don't think money.
It's a pipe dream.
I don't think he leaves New York, but he's definitely. I don't think he's leaving the Bronx, but definitely not New York.
I don't think the money is ever going to be a problem with them. It's more of just how I view how their front office thinks. Yeah. That's the basis of it. They should pay Aaron Judge whatever they should.
Yeah,
and I imagine that they will.
man, but he'd look good in a Cubs uniform. You know what would look good with a Cubs uniform? Shady Rays.
Shady Rays.
Oh,
That's
put
true.
those Shady Rays on.
Yeah, I wonder.
Put Shady Rays on whenever Rizzo's up at the plate and he's about to win the ALCS with the Yankees. Put them on. That way
Heavily
you don't have to
tinted
watch it.
Shady Rays, so you can't maybe see it as well
So you
indoors.
can't see it.
Yeah, what if there's like the shadow or like the sun's beating down like next year, and you look at like Seiya in right field, all of a sudden they do a close up and he's got Shady Rays sunglasses on.
The old flip downs where the outfielders used to take them and flip them down real quick. The flip down Shady Rays. I don't think they make those, but we could ask.
Yeah. So Shady Rays, they never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear, lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Dropped in a lake, like if you're going fishing, Luke. Did that happen, or is that happening soon?
Have I ever dropped sunglasses?
No.
in
You
the
said
lake?
you were going
No, I'm
fishing
not
or
going
something like
anytime
that?
soon. Although
Okay.
this is like, if you're going for big walleyes or muskie or
Okay.
something,
This
this
is
is
the
fall.
time.
This is fall season. This is where you get the big ones, but you got to be willing to like reel in a frozen line, and I'm a little past
There
that.
you go. So if you drop them in a lake, you drop them off a cliff, you're hiking for some reason, anything you do, they'll replace them. So even with that strong of a protection program, they still manage to make quality that I can tell you holding in my hand seems just as good as any expensive pair that I've ever worn. Shady Rays customers seem to agree. Over 200,000 5-star reviews. Shady Rays also provides 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have donated over 20 million meals to date. They stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. Free returns and exchanges. You either love the shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. And now, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. That's a great deal.
That is an amazing deal.
You get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades.
Dub says we could go ice fishing in Minnesota. It's Dubs, man. Again, like I'm more likely to, no postseason now, jump in a car and go looking for big walleyes right now than I am ice fishing. It's one of the types of fishing that it doesn't interest me. Sitting on a frozen bucket, even in the warm shacks, I don't want to stick my hand into a lake that's like, no, I'm good. I can't. I like fishing, but not that much. What I do like is Pins and Aces, the official golf apparel partner of CHGO. We love our Pins and Aces gear. Get tons of compliments on and off the golf course. A family-owned golf and apparel business. They make amazing polos, hats, golf bags, even our favorite beer sleeve, an innovative product that allows you to store 7 beers inside your golf bag and keep those drinks cold the entire round. Check out pinsandaces.com. Use the code CHGO to receive 15% off your first order and get free shipping. That's pinsandaces.com. This time of year, I'm into the hot chocolate with the little peppermint schnapps. If I'm doing something outside, I know maybe that's not the coolest drink. A little peppermint flavor in your hot chocolate.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like the
In on
hot
that.
cider. You know
Hot
what are
cider's
those
good,
things during like the holiday season? They have it out in Gallagher Way, and then they have it somewhere downtown. I think. What's it called?
They have it over at like by the Bean.
The Spirit,
Yeah,
the
outdoor
Spirit
skating.
Halloween store.
No. I'm talking about during the holiday season.
You're not talking Christmas Kindle?
Yeah.
Oh,
something-
yeah, you're talking about Christmas
Oh.
Kindle, like when they come in with the German
There's
huts.
like an apple cider type thing.
Okay.
That-
yeah, it's
I've
across
gotten
from
there.
Channel 2. It's like right by the Picasso. They have
Yeah.
Christmas Kindle every
They
year.
do it at
Right, and they do
Wrigley
one
Field, too.
at Wrigleyville
Yeah,
now.
yeah. There's like some drink there though.
Wassail.
I don't know.
Warm wassail, I
There's
believe they
there
call
might
it.
be alcohol in it too, which is
Yeah,
cool.
oh yeah, there is.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of that, you're talking about during like the fall or cold season. Like
Right.
it's a little bit colder then, but yeah.
Yeah, you make those warm. If you take apple cider and you put it on the stove and you warm it up a little bit, and then you take a little cinnamon and or just a splash of peach schnapps, warm that up, throw some cinnamon sticks in there,
Some cloves.
cloves, real good. Real good. That'll keep you warm.
Nutmeg.
Just take a beer.
That's fair.
Ryan's a beer
beer.
guy, see? Hot toddy. Dubs likes a hot toddy.
So, while we were doing the ads, I was scrolling the timeline, and I saw from our friends over at Bleacher Nation, in one of their blogs, they linked an article out of Japan about Kodai Senga. Apparently, the Cubs have shown interest in him, and I know we've talked about him a little bit, and like he's kind of been linked with the Cubs all year, honestly.
Yeah.
But he did just announce like a few days ago that he was going to definitely, I don't know what the term is, but like opt out of whatever in Japan.
I think
come
he's
do
just like a
overseas.
free agent.
Yeah.
However, because like they have the posting system.
He's going to
but he's
exercise
not
his
subject to it.
overseas free agent rights. That's what he's doing. So, apparently the Red Sox and Cubs are the teams that are interested in him as of right now.
Cool.
I'm sure we'll get
just
more
don't know
into
what
that.
to expect.
We could definitely get more into that. And like,
They say that his fastball gets up to 102, so I'm just
Okay, I'm
saying.
in on that.
I'm in.
I like that part.
Yeah.
All right, report card
Grades?
time, right? We're going back to the
report cards.
report cards. And Mr. Ian Happ. Let's do him first. Cody, you want to go for your grades for
Yeah, let's do Ian Happ.
Happer?
We're doing Ian Happ.
We got to
That's
make
Mark
sure.
Leiter Jr. on the graphic there, but good try, guys. Um,
I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh,
Hap could be a guy to throw.
yeah,
Maybe,
like
we
maybe
could
he's
do
a
an inning.
pitcher, right?
You never know. There could be one of those games next year where we get
Yeah.
Hap.
I literally cut his graphic and everything, and I never switched it. I'm so sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
oh, Sarah.
It's been a couple weeks.
It's okay.
Oh my goodness. what are we gonna do with you?
So I think I said
That's what
last
happens when
week.
Candace is good at football. You'd get distracted.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Sean, the VR report card is still coming.
Yeah.
Can imagine the
Okay.
grades. Sorry.
It's all good. We're having fun here. So I know last week I said that Nico's probably the only guy I'd give an A to, but then I wasn't thinking about Ian Happ, and there's no way that I feel like I can't give Ian Happ an A for this season. He had his best year of his career. He made the All-Star team, and even though I don't really put a lot of credit into that, it's still something that he did, and he wasn't even voted for it. It was the players or coaches, whoever, who decided it wasn't a starter.
He deserved it.
He deserved the All-Star nod. He had, we've talked about him being in the or not in the All-Star, but the Gold Glove for left field race. And again, he had his best offensive season. Yeah, the power took a dip in my opinion. But again, he put together a full year, and I think, to me, like me and Luke have said it many times, like we thought maybe he would not even get tendered a contract. So
We thought he might get Schwarbered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
a
I
year
got
ago. Like,
yeah,
as
so
late as
like
last July. Like he
right.
was-
So like the way that I've been looking at things is like my expectations going into the year, and like I didn't expect this kind of year from Ian Happ at all. He completely surpassed any expectation I had for him, and not only did he do that, but he had a really good season. It wasn't his fault that the team was not good. And he loves being here, and I think I'm just adding that in even more to an A, because there could have been every reason for him to want out, for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I give the guy an A. The guy was great. There's nothing you can say about it, in my opinion. If you want to get down to the nitty-gritty on his offensive numbers, I guess maybe. I know Ryan's going to do that because he looked at me weird when I said that he had the best offensive year of his year, or of his career. But I don't know. We're talking about Dell metrics here, and to me, he gets an A.
Kalata said we're the nice teacher in first grade. Everyone
saw
gets
that.
A's.
No, Kalata. You just wait. We haven't
Just
hit some
wait.
of the guys.
And I gave Madrigal an F yesterday.
There's
Get out of here.
There's some F's coming for me. There's some F's coming.
there
Ian
are.
Happ's not an F.
We haven't gotten down to the nitty gritty yet. Like there's a lot of other ones.
Andrelton Simmons will not be getting a passing grade from me. Jonathan VR will not get a passing grade.
I just love how yesterday Joey didn't. I put an F for him, but then he put
He
pass.
still had pass.
He still had pass on the graphics. I was like, that's not passing, brother.
No. I
Whatever.
wish an F was passing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my turn, I guess.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I had with Hap, still kept them at an A- overall. What is this? Stuff and results.
This is lighter.
This is still lighter. Okay. Well, his defense, I gave him an A. And his offense, I gave him a B.
Yeah,
Do you have another graphic
Ian Happ's report card.
So
is
you have the
on
grades right, but
it's the format for the pitching guys. For the offensive guys like Happ, it'll be offense, defense overall. For the pitching guys, the template is results, stuff adjustments, and overall.
Yeah. So
there's two different templates.
So Happ, I went B on offense, A defense, A- overall. Cody, you said his best offense this season. I can't say that specifically. I mean, if you just look at some of the numbers, especially WRC plus, it's not. I will say it was his most consistent season. There was he had. I mean, Jed said it at his presser last week that his career before this year was marked with a lot of high highs or really high highs and really low lows. That didn't really happen this year. It was a lot more consistent. First half he finished with like a 128 WRC plus. End of the season it dropped a little bit, but it was still at 120, which is still a good offensive year. And it just wasn't, it wasn't like a breakout year. I don't know if I would say. I mean, he definitely deserved the All-Star nod. I'll give him that. But I think what really, really stood out to me was his defense. And that's why I gave him an A on that, because you didn't really know what you had with him in left field. He wasn't an all-worlds defender in center field. I mean, he played infield at various points in his career. He found a home in left field, which, it's not, maybe it's a level below how hard it is to play in right field, but left field right there with the wall, how close it is, it's still not easy to play.
Made some great catches.
It's tricky. He made some fabulous catches. You look at his numbers. I mean, defensive runs saved. I think last time I looked, he was like second in the National League among left fielders. He ended up with, if I could find it, 13 defensive runs saved this season. Very squarely in the Gold Glove conversation, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him win it. Like that's I don't know who could have expected that from Happ this year. Definitely not me. But he proved a lot of people wrong as far as his ability to play left field on an everyday basis. So he got an A. I mean, and B, I mean, he didn't have in a lot of categories his best numbers in a season. He had his highest average and his lowest strikeout rate, but his isolated power was as low as it's been in his career. Weighted on base average was probably I think it was like fourth or fifth best in his career. Slugging was down, of course. I mean, he hit a lot of doubles, but that was a drop in home runs. I wanted to see more after that really good first half, and I don't think that I did. But that's not to say he can't pick it back up. I appreciate what he did over the offseason and last 2 months of last season, but then this offseason to really work on the strikeouts, because the strikeouts were pretty high like before that, and I think he's a little bit better than league average his strikeout rate this season. So it's improving, and I wanted to see a little more after the first half that he put together. He didn't sink at all. It just wasn't like, okay, this guy is having the best year of his career. It certainly looks that way, but it's like, I don't know. It didn't blow me away, I guess. Offensively, defensively, again, he had a great year. But I don't know. That it felt like B plus range, like high B range, is what it felt like to me.
I agree, and I think maybe the second half you can factor a little bit of what I was talking about with Wilson Contreras a couple days ago. Like if there's another guy that felt that pressure of the trade deadline and not being a Cub for the rest of his career, that very well could be Ian Happ. Like you saw him meeting with Bleacher Jeff and other guys in the outfield and really actually just getting emotional about the trade deadline as it was coming up. So to think that factored into the second half of the season, very possible. He did have a chance to go great half of a season into another great half of a season. He had a chance to do three of them in a row, right? Which now you're talking about a sample size where you're like, whoa. And you're right. The numbers dropped down a little bit. I was a little disappointed that the power, he went from 25 to like 17 in home runs from last year. But I wonder if the Cubs are okay with that, because there wasn't a high and a low. Are you okay with a little bit less power if you get more consistency at the plate? And I kind of feel like on this team, if you add those power guys, you may be okay with that out of Happ, right? Like just getting on base and playing good outfield. I couldn't give him a better grade than I gave Nico Horner, and I couldn't give him a better grade than I gave Wilson Contreras, but I could give him the same grade. I think those are my 3 highest position player grades because I think they all performed at a high level for different reasons. All 3 of them did it under a high degree of stress. Like Nico Horner, not Wilson, but like Nico Horner, I think Happ had that kind of, hey, this is prove it time in your major league career. Like if you want to be around for a long time, it's time to now show why you were a first round pick and get that consistency. So my overall grade was just like the other 2 guys, B+. I think he had a great season. I don't know if that's going to lead to him being a long-term piece of the Cubs. I just don't. Like I don't know how bold they're thinking in the offseason. Could I see Ian Happ being a guy that's included in a deal because he has the rest of next year left? I do, because I think other teams will see some value in him. But I also give him some credit for not necessarily wanting to be here, but for the leadership value of it. Like I think he's very clearly become, despite the fact that he's not necessarily a superstar, he is a very solid, if not solid /plus made player.
I mean, he's vocal. He's got that, that first locker when you turn left into the clubhouse. Like he's got that locker.
Right. Well, what else do you want out of him? Right? Power.
He's a player rep. Like he's well respected. So I, as far as leadership goes, like I think that's another reason why I was like, A-. Like, like he, again, I give my offensive and defensive grades, but then you take into other things into account. Like he stepped up into a bigger role after those guys were traded, and I think he kind of thrives in that role. He knows the game. He understands the game. He understands, team building. He understands, how to take, Jed mentioned, like, as soon as I got here, Happ kind of took him under his wing. That's another thing that just, bumps his grade up is that the leadership role. I'm very curious to see what Michael Culata would grade Ian Happ's season.
Anybody in the chat, Michael, what grade would you give Ian Happ overall? What would you grade his offense? What would you grade his defense?
Yeah.
And what would you grade him overall? Like, I'm not saying the Cubs had this great offensive season, but do I think Ian Happ is better than just a passing grade this season? Yeah, I think he was a deserving all-star, and he might win a Gold Glove in left. Yeah. Or he might, at worst case, he's going to finish second in the Gold Glove in left field. Do I think that means he's an A-plus outfielder based on other major leaguers? No, but I would say he was easily their best outfielder this season. He was better than Seiya.
He was better than Seiya for sure. I'd agree.
All right. Well, maybe I overreacted, but I mean, I look at it the way I did. You guys look at it the way Ryan looked at it the way he did. Fine, I don't care.
We got a lot of B pluses. Sean, Nathan, B plus. That's exactly the overall grade. Dubs is saying B plus. I can argue with like B. I see that grade. I see B. I can see A minus.
Look at from what we saw and what we expected, and that's why I think that he over exceeded anything that we ever thought, and he looked like a guy that you actually want to build around.
Yeah, and maybe not a cornerstone piece, but you could see him being.
But he could be a pillar.
Yeah,
a pillar of one of the 6 pillars. You know what I mean?
He can be a foundation piece.
Yeah, a little foundation.
You know he can be in the foundation because
he
does it the right way too.
No one thought that. No one thought that coming into this year.
You know what? He could be the initials in the wet cement.
And even I was even still weary when he became an all-star. I was like, can you do it for a full year? He did. Like, fine. Like the advanced stats and the home runs, whatever. Like, they won a lot. The games that they did win, a lot of them were because of him. And whether he's hitting homers or not, but just getting on base. Like, that's why I love him. He's just getting on base. So,
what about what Sean says? You can win with what Ian gave you this year, but he couldn't be a cornerstone guy if this was like what he was giving you. I can get on board with that. Yeah. I mean, I
just think that DH really opens up the opportunity for them to have more power. That way you can afford to have Ian Happ in left field if he isn't going to hit
30 bombs for you.
And the switch hitting gives you great value. Like
For sure. Oh, yeah. And
man,
he had his best year
I'll
ever
talk about the
hitting
White
as a
Sox
right-handed
needed him.
hitter.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? That's why I tried to trade him with wisdom because at the time I thought they were trading him regardless.
Yeah.
And there's value in that type of player.
Yeah.
Right. We're
Maybe
gonna
not
see,
like
We
on the,
got to do Mark Leiter Jr., guys.
Right.
We,
All right,
we
all
got to
right.
get to this.
Let's do your DraftKings pick of the week though, Cody. What is your big DraftKings pick of the week? What are you thinking for?
So I gave this out on CHGO Bets Daily yesterday. With the NBA season coming up, I gave a same game parlay that I'm doing tonight, and it is Nikola Vucevic 10+ rebounds, Patrick Williams 1+ blocks, Kyle Lowry under 10.5 points, and Ayo Dosunmu 1+ steals. That's at plus 950. And if you opt in on one of the boosts that they have, I think they have a 50% profit boost. If you use that, it goes from plus 950 to plus 1425. And I'm feeling pretty good about it with Zach LaVine being out, which means there's going to be a lot more bricks for Vucevic to grab. Patrick Williams is going to be a lot more active because he's going to have to be off. He's going to have to do more. And Ayo Dosunmu is a really good defender. So I think he's going to be on Kyle Lowry all night. And
Wait, you forgot to say CHGO's.
CHGO's
Thank
Ayo
you.
Dosunmu,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
He's a good defender, so I like the steals, and I think he's going to hold Kyle Lowry under 11 points. So
All right. There you go. You heard it here first.
yeah, I would not bet Bulls plus 7.5 with LaVine being out.
No.
But if you want to get real juicy and just ride the wave of just being a Bulls fan, be my guest. But that's my parlay.
I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't gone up, the spread, since.
Yeah, I was
LaVine
surprised to
out.
log on and see if anything, take the heat now. I
Yeah.
could see it increasing as more people look at the markets
as
the day goes on.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that I don't bet against my team. I leave it alone and watch the game.
Well, when you're miserable like me, Ryan, you find a way to bet on your favorite teams, and you just bet against them all the time.
What's the over/under on Jimmy Bucket's points tonight?
I did not look, but it is the Jimmy Butler revenge game. So,
Yeah, I
maybe,
would, whatever it might be, I think I'd go over.
yeah.
All right.
Here we finally get into it. We tried to get to Mark Leiter Jr. on
A
Monday.
whole week.
We're finally getting to it on Wednesday. Our grades for Mark Leiter Jr. in the bullpen.
Oh. Well, where do you got Mike Doves? Mike Doves already gave it a.
Collada went B- on Happer, by the way. But
What,
again,
B-
that's
so how-
that's a passing grade. D is technically a passing grade.
So how are our grades for Hap? I don't get how that makes it like we're gonna give.
What did he
all
give
these- all
Horner?
these, like,
I can't remember what he
Wake
gave
up B.
Horner.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, well, let's do it. Should we
Okay.
start with Cody?
Yeah,
start
Cody,
with
go
me.
ahead. Mark
I think you
Leiter
got
Jr.
the
I didn't know what
graphic
to do
right.
here.
Or you got the
it
picture
was-
right in the graphic, Sarah, but not the stats. But I am bringing it up. I can't remember exactly what I had.
I can tell you what let me go first then. We'll reverse the order.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. Luke.
I went C- across the board, and Collada might be right. I might be a little too positive on this one. Although I think there were times in the bullpen that he showed you that he could be a valuable piece moving forward. Like he's not a starter.
No, definitely
No,
not.
not
Mark Leiter Jr. is not a starter, but could he be a depth piece in the bullpen? Maybe.
Yeah.
I was willing to say that he was a passing grade in the bullpen. But, I'm not going to say he's like better than everybody, but have I been angrier at other Cubs relievers in the past? Yes.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't.
Probably angrier.
Nothing stood out. Nothing stood out from him to me to be like B-. I had to go C, and then I was like, you know what? I don't even know if I can go average. I have to go slightly below average. So I just went C- is down the board.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a little older too.
Yeah, was he like 30-ish,
I think he'll
31
be 31
maybe?
next year.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
I don't know if that should factor into a report card grade, but I think there's less room for growth
Yeah.
moving into the next, going from fourth grade to fifth grade.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty much the same way if I could find mine. It was.
I think you might have had the same thing, C-.
I believe it was pretty similar.
I'm looking at all of ours right now.
So I had C- results for Leiter, C stuff adjustment, C- overall. Yeah, I guess I'm more of the stat person, I guess.
Yeah, well, you got numbers for that?
He was not good as a starter.
No.
That's
So I
that's very
pushed
clear.
that aside. Like maybe that's why I threw the minus in because the reliever part was average. He had a pretty good run at the end of the season for a little while there where he was
so as a starter, he
effective.
0-2, 8.16 ERA, 1.535 WHIP. As a reliever, he was 2 for 5, but he had a 2.87 ERA with a 1.031 WHIP. I know people in the chat will say that he was pitching mop up duty, which isn't completely not true, but he did face 60 batters in high leverage innings.
Well, the chat's fired up about this one. Look at that. Sean's F starter. He was solid out of the pen.
I mean, That's how I feel. He faced 60 hitters in high leverage situations. They hit 184 with a 623 OPS. Like, those are solid numbers for clutch in clutch
says
moments.
Pressure appearances F.
But that's the thing is a lot of his were low leverage innings. Actually, Corey gave him the best grades out of all of us, which is kind of funny to me. But he even said yesterday that you also do need guys who can do that. Who it might be a 4 or 5 run game, but just go out and give you innings. He did that pretty well this year, and then he also had good moments that we talked about the 5 innings in Boston against Boston when he came out when Alec Mills threw 7 pitches and got hurt. And he pitched 5 great innings out of the bullpen.
That's against a good lineup.
I don't know. I am not trying to say Mark Leiter Jr. is a key piece of this bullpen, but he performed pretty well out of it. He was a pretty good reliever for once he came out of the rotation. He has a really good changeup. Two seam sinker, whatever you call it, is okay. And there's a reason that doesn't last as a starter because you can't go more than a couple. Even one time through the order with one really good pitch, one okay pitch, and then nothing else really working for you. You can't do that. Yeah. But you can get through 6-7 hitters at a time with 2 pitches. I know there's plenty of relievers that can do that.
Yeah.
He's not – he was definitely below average. If you take it all into account, and the starting was bad, better as a reliever. You take it all into account, and
I'm there. I'm with I could Nathan as saying D+ overall. I can totally go with that. Colada's saying somewhere between a C+ and an F, which I think actually might be a D+. So I said my C- might be a little optimistic.
Yeah.
But I'm somewhere between a C- and a D+. I'm not overwhelmed. It was just kind of a grade I had to give.
All right. Mine's a little bit different. This will be more in line with the chat, I think. So I went results C-, stuff and adjustments C+, and then overall D+. That's Dell metrics for you, baby. I don't know how else to explain it, but basically just the easiest way to sum it up for you. In the first half of the season, in 41 1/3 innings, he had a 5.0. Or no, this is before the trade deadline. Actually, this is where I had it set up. From the moment he was on the Cubs to the trade deadline, he had a 5.01 ERA, a 4.88 FIP. And that was in 41 1/3 innings. But then after that, he had a 2.39 after the trade deadline the rest of the season. So, yeah, he got better he was better by the end of the year. He sucked as a starter. But even as a reliever, he had moments where you're like, I don't like this. And so
I think those were a lot fewer and far between though. I always remember in the chat we talk about it and people be like, oh no, Mark Leiter Jr. I never want to see him pitch again, and we're like, but he pitched good today. There would be times like that.
Right. I feel like we had post game shows where we're like, and Leiter was fine for 2 innings.
Yeah.
Again, I just I just feel like, I guess if you want to look at my expectations, well, I didn't even know who the guy was until he got called up.
Thanks, brother.
I had no expectations. He started off the year bad with the Cubs trying to use him as a starter because of all their injuries, and clearly showed they had no depth at that position because of it. But with the way he pitched in the second half, instead of giving him an F, I give him a D+. Yes, I think he has some potential. I think he a potential to be someone in that bullpen that maybe you can actually feel good about next year. Because again, we've talked about before, Hotovy, Moskos, all those guys, they find a way to bring the best out of you, right?
Yeah.
If they are able to turn Mark Leiter Jr., a seasoned vet who had all those injuries and stuff, and the Cubs pick him up and they turn him into something, cool. But we've seen guys be significantly better than him, and
I give him a D+ because honestly, he was really the only time I really felt good about him was the last 2 months of the year.
I'm not 100% sure on his contract deal. I will say this: he's not a guy you have to protect on the 40-man.
No, definitely not.
He's not a guy you have to protect on the 40-man, but he might be a guy that if this is right, like that you could non-tender, let him go out there, bring him back, put him at AAA.
Yeah.
Like you've seen enough to know enough about him that if he wanted to come back, you could make him a non-roster invitee at spring training and be like, "Hey, dude, we'll keep you back and we'll put you."
Right.
But you don't have to protect him on the 40.
No, yeah, I think that's because he's not. I don't think he has
especially because he's 31.
According to Fangraphs, he doesn't have any options left either, so it's not they can just send him back down to AAA when if they feel like it. Like it would take a cut him, sign him back on a minor league deal, keep him in AAA, and then that's bullpen depth, I guess.
But I'd be okay with that.
I'd be fine with that. I said I'm not saying Mark Leiter Jr.
He's
is
a really solid depth piece. Like we talked about it plenty of times. Like you need those guys to find some sort of role in your organization, not necessarily like your major league team, but like in your organization. All things considered, I guess you can argue that he can be a guy like that. You also got Adrian Sampson. It's like they're both kind of the same in the same type of situation, right?
Sure.
And I think Sampson's better. I think we all agree that Sampson's better. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would be okay if they had moved on from him, and I'd be okay if they kept him. And that's why, to me, like it didn't move the needle for me, and that's why he gets a D+.
And I'm looking at it. I'm like, with everything, perfect world, all these guys healthy. Should Mark Leiter Jr. be on the opening day roster? Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe because you'd have, and again, in a perfect world, you'd have, like Kyle Hendricks, Steele, Thompson, Alzolay, all those, a couple bullpen guys coming in, and then you got Brandon Hughes, Estrada. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe there isn't a spot for him on the opening day roster, which goes to the point of, is if you can figure out a way to sign him, cut him, sign him back as a minor league free agent, then you got a little bit of bullpen depth right there sitting in AAA for you, which again isn't the worst case scenario.
You're not spending a lot of your offseason worrying about it.
No,
right. I feel like if you ask Mark Leiter Jr. himself how he thought or how he felt like he did this year, I think he would probably speak very highly of himself, just because this was probably one of his better seasons. Because again, if you look at his past couple of years, like he had injuries and stuff, and just kind of, from my memory at least of looking at him, like there isn't a lot to like. So like to see what he did in the second half of the year and like basically in his bullpen role, he was as good as advertised, I guess you could say, and he wasn't really advertised. So like that's kind of the point, is like he was what we all expected. Nothing crazy, nothing special, but someone who can eat some innings for you, and someone who, if an injury happens, you can just insert him, and hopefully you can find a reasonable role for him, and someone else can take over for that other guy's spot. But it's a guy that can be there and eat you some valuable innings that way, to not overuse your bullpen.
His obvious shirt would say, "Meh, he was okay."
He was okay.
That would be the obvious shirt.
I think if he could do that, like that's all you can really hope for, right? That's all you can really ask for. If you can be a guy that just provides bullpen depth, and even if it's in mostly mop up innings, Cubs are losing by a good amount of runs, and he just comes up and covers 3-4 innings for the rest of your bullpen.
He was even decent, like when they had those weird ass games where they'd be blowing a team out this year, where they just bring him in there and he'd pitch 2 or 3 innings, like
try and get us out of here in 3 hours.
Yeah, he was decent in a role of being down 5 runs or up 5 runs. Like it was mainly whenever he was in like the high leverage spots that I didn't really feel great about, and as a starter. Those are the two that I never really felt good with him out there, was when it basically mattered. But even when you're up 5 runs in a game, no matter how good the team is, like it matters. So I guess in a way he did pitch in high leverage spots. But like as far as like 1 or 2 runs, instances, not great.
All right, real quick, who do you guys want to do, or in the chat too? Like who should we grade tomorrow? I feel like maybe we should do a front office one. Do we do Jed Hoyer?
Do Jed?
We should.
Or do we
should
say
do it
that
after
to
we
the
get,
end?
Yeah,
We do
after
all
we
the
get
players
to the players
first?
Yeah,
all the players first.
And same thing with David Ross.
Yeah.
So let's do one that people have been asking for. Let's do a VR. Let's do a VR, and then VR will be our position player. What pitcher would you like to?
I said
include
Hendricks.
Hendrickson VR. I like
Hendrickson
that.
VR, okay.
Hendrickson VR tomorrow. Get your report
That'll
cards
make
ready
everyone
for
who's
Thursday.
upset that we're giving too many Bs out. That'll be good for tomorrow.
Oh, I
So I'm
look
saying,
forward
like,
to it.
we've done what? We've done like 7 players. and
Yeah.
most of them have been the guys that
Yeah.
probably deserved at least B or higher. Like
Yeah.
the guys that were good this year. There's a lot more players that aren't B level.
Hendrickson
Absolutely.
VR. We'll finish our week on what might not be a high note.
I can't wait to do Lock St. John.
Lock St. John.
I'm making an A for me.
His
we'll
one
do
appearance that he
Lock
made.
St. John and Jesse Chavez get the same report card.
What about Luke Farrell?
Luke Farrell.
Luke Farrell.
He had
Yeah.
that one random appearance that he against the Cardinals.
Yes.
Oh,
Had
yeah.
went 4 or 5 innings of
He
one
had
run
2.
ball.
He pitched in Toronto too. Don't forget about that.
Okay.
Sean Newcomb. That's going to be
Sean
another.
Newcomb.
Colada's just
Sean
throwing
Newcomb.
out the Fs.
He's just throwing Fs.
throwing
in
out the
chat.
F. I don't know if that's an F bomb or a report card. But
Yeah, I don't know.
it's an F. Thanks for dropping in to check out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. We'll see you tomorrow and fly the W.